Hello, everyone, and welcome on this wonderful spring day to a human amongst humans. My name is your humble host, John J.W. Oxenford. I added my humble in there just to make things make sense. But my full name is John Joshua William Oxenford, and humble host may be my place in this CCTV world we are in at the moment. But I'm happy to be here, and it's a wonderful day out. I think it was first day of spring last Friday, and it's light out right now. It's just weird. It's at 6 p.m. It's light out, and I'm not used to this. All my CCTV shows alone have been done in the dark, so it is no longer this ominous experience. It's a happy spring day. I feel like I should wake up and have some coffee or something. But yeah, today is the show. Sorry for missing last week. I had something. I was seeing a play with my mother actually, and it was this play called Stereotopic or Stereophonic, and it had the most. I think they said it had the most nominations of some award than any other play on Broadway. It was about these musicians. These actors playing musicians. And I'm sure they're musicians as well because they played very good music. But it was all about, it's kind of based off of Fleetwood Mac's sort of relationship chaos that they had going on there. And I'm not really a listener of that, but I know people who are. Mom likes them. And it was all about them trying to find their vision and then, clashing and then, being best friends, but at the same time always fighting. And it was very interesting. I was about to spoil the plot, but I'll let you see that if you haven't seen it yet. But I'm here now, and I'm happy to be here. And I think the first thing I wanted to start talking about today was actually music. So what a wonderful segue. Today, I recently listened to Gojira's From Mars to Sirius for the first time in a very short time. Probably the nth time I've listened to it. So I listen to it a lot, and every now and then I get it's different for me. It kind of grows a little bit more. I remember first time I really listened to Gojira was a concert that I saw with my friend Alex, who has been on the show before. He's now my cousin. There's a whole story behind that. I could bring next another episode with him on it. But Alex and I went to see Gojira, Job for a Cowboy, Beneath the Massacre, and Behemoth. And all four of those are some of my favorite metal bands. It was just an epic concert. It was totally well done, flawless and amazing. And Gojira comes on, they were just after, I think they were either before or after Job for a Cowboy. And Job for a Cowboy, their lighting was all red. It was nothing but red and brutal and death metal-y and stuff like that. But Gojira comes on, and it's nothing but blue. And they play the first song to that record, From Mars to Sirius. They play Ocean Planet. And I just looked at them, and I was just thinking, oh my God, this is an awesome band. I have to get this record. So it was an awesome show, and later on, I ended up picking up, I think first I heard the singles from that record. They were Heaviest Matter of the Universe and Flying Whales. And I thought they were great, awesome riffs, a little bit technical, a little bit death metal, but they had that Gojira kind of motivating, healthy sound to them. They're all about flying whales and save the environment and blue and green and just lovely feelings. They're from France, by the way, and they just last Olympics was in France. They played in the Olympics. I think that was the first, I call them extreme metal, the first extreme metal band to play in the Olympics. So I'm just totally happy, proud to be a supporter, and just really appreciate how they're promoting extreme metal music with a good message. It matters so much to me before I pick up a record, before I even listen to anything. What's the message this is saying? What is the cover? Is it some sort of, brutal, gory mess, or is it? And is the title kind of, scary and negative, you know. And you know, some people might say, "Oh, that's just it's because it's really brutal." And I like brutality. I love metal. You know, I listen to extreme metal. I don't dislike brutality. It's just, you know, I don't really want to listen to that gory concept while I'm hearing the music. You know, I want an image. I want a really nice cover. I want something that I can meditate on. You know. So I was listening to From Mars to Sirius, and if you haven't seen Gojira's Mars to Sirius, I don't know where you've been. But it's an awesome picture of this flying whale flying around planets and stuff, and blue white cover. It's just beautiful. And I was listening to that, and I was just, you know, if I were to criticize this, which I could, I would say this is a little bit too simple in comparison to their previous record called The Link, which was very underground, very technical, very brutal, very almost Primus-esque. It's just almost kind of, it had its own sound. Nothing sounded like that. And they come from this really, you know, click track, heavy, brutal, interesting sound to this new record that's all kind of, I don't know, very treble, kind of thrashy production in it with much simpler riffs. And a different concept, and they sounded like a different band. And first thing I heard when I first heard that, in comparison to their previous record, The Link, and their later record, The Way of All Flesh, I thought, this is not the same band. You know, this is not the same band. But I listened to it, and it grew on me. Every track, it grew on me, and it grew on me. And now I can hear, you know, its inspirations in my music. You know, if I listen back to Demo 1. From Effort Born, I can hear some of those. I was listening to this riff on Physics, one of my tracks, Physics, The Birth of Effort, and I was listening to Backbone, the second track on that record, on the Gojira record, and it had this riff that really said, oh, okay, now I know I got my riff from, you know. So it's really, really cool to hear that. You know, I could criticize it if I was thinking very technically, but emotionally and spiritually, I'm totally with it. So, you know, there's different ways to make good music. So, Gojira rock and roll. And TesseracT. I don't know if you all know TesseracT. A little less known, but pretty well known. They got some millions in some of their tracks on YouTube. They're from England, and they're a technical progressive band from England, you know, stemming from the djent, sort of Meshuggah djent genre or subgenre. And it's just, they're bringing in these polyrhythms, they're bringing in these complicated stuff, some really nice heavy groove riffs, but they also have some nice, almost post-Rockian, floaty moments, you know, where they have few notes, but it's a very nice lead and kind of ambient electronic in the background. And their last record was War of Being. And I had different feelings about that record. I thought it wasn't as complex as One or Altered State or Sonder. I didn't really think much of Polaris either, but I'll go back to that. But there were some godlike moments in War of Being. I mean, but I'm listening to this new, this instrumental version of War of Being by TesseracT, and it completely changed the entire listening experience for me. And I've listened to it 3 times since then. And I've been thinking, you know, where are those vocals? Where could those vocals come into what they have now, which is actually, you know, they degraded, they took out the vocal tracks. What parts of those vocals could I put back into this to make it even better than this? And I like I'll say it outside. I'm not criticizing TesseracT. I'm not criticizing their vocalist either. I think he's an amazingly talented individual. But I did like the instrumental version of War of Being better. I was able to really hear what riffs they were playing. I was really able to just meditate with it without, you know, and there are certain tracks in the initial, with the regular record with the vocals, you know, there's tracks like Legion and Burden where the vocals completely complement everything going on. You know, Legion is probably the best vocal, one of the top four best vocal performances of all time, in my opinion. But at the same time, on that record, there were certain, I don't know, maybe risks he was taking, or there were certain parts of the vocal tracks that I would take away. And I've been listening, 3 times, listening to this instrumental, hour-long progressive metal album, and I've just been thinking, oh, if I could be in the studio there with them, oh yeah, put this vocal part back on in Legions, and over in Burden, maybe take that bit off. And, oh yeah, War of Being. They had this 11-minute long track of the song, the title of the record, War of Being. And at first I was thinking, oh, I'm so glad they took the vocals out of this. And then it got to the middle of the track, and I thought, ooh, they could have added those vocals back in. So I wish I could have been in their studio with their vocalist to just talk to them and like, what do you think of my ideas? Would this sound better to you? So I've been listening to that nonstop and totally enjoying it. My top records for TesseracT are One, their first full record, I believe. And I haven't listened to the instrumental one on that yet. I may at some point, but I don't mind the vocals, so I see no reason to. Altered State, another amazing one. Sonder with the new vocalist. I didn't really like Polaris of Being. A few of those tracks I kept in my in one of my playlists on YouTube. On Noted Metal, they'll be in the at the bottom with all the newest added tracks. But then Sonder came out, and I look at it and say, oh, this is 36 minutes. I'm used for like a 50 minutes to an hour with TesseracT. I wonder what's going on, but it is comparable, equal to Altered State in One, and that's their new vocalist. So I'm just trying to say, I'm not criticizing the new vocalist. I just know he can do better things than some of the parts he decided to put into War of Being. Some of the parts he did were just as good as Sonder, and Sonder, One, Altered State, top 100. I have a lot of favorite records, but those are all equal to me. So I'm looking forward to their next record to see what they do. We'll see what they do. Another band I wanted to talk about today is Tool. I'm a huge Tool fan. I've been a Tool fan since high school. I picked up Undertow in a London record store. It was all over the shelves and loved it. I no longer listen to that record just because lyrically I don't really fit with it anymore. And I would probably not be listening to Enema as much as I do now if I hadn't edited it. What I've done is I've taken off all those little tracks that are, and one of the tracks that had a kind of a profane name in it, and I took all these little interludes, and I put it into 8 tracks, and it's now about an hour 3 minutes, and it's just, I've never heard it better. It's beautiful, So I took the liberty to edit Enema a little bit, and now I like it even better than they originally made it. So, and then there was Lateralis, and I was listening to Enema, and Lateralis have also made an edit too. I don't think it's necessary. It's I like it. I've never heard the record better since after I've done the edit to it. But I don't think that's going to be true for everybody. But for me, the entire thing sounds beautiful. But I was walking around the Charles River near my place, listening to Enema edit and Lateralis edit, and I have a little bit of a leg that cramps. I have a little bit of an injury on my right leg. I've actually separated both ankles. The first one, I got put in a boot. I went to the hospital to put me in a boot, and now it works fine like it did the day I was born, so to speak. But my other one, I broke, and I didn't bring it to the hospital because it kind of healed itself. I didn't break it. I just kind of rolled it, and then it got back into place. So I can walk and stuff. But sometimes if I'm really trying to go fast pace, I was listening to Tool. It's like, I'm going to get some good rest for this. I'm going to walk like a fitness man, and then all of a sudden my calf starts seizing up on me, and I just can't walk, and I didn't know what to do, and I was so angry, it's my leg is ruining my experience of Tool my Tool edits, the best I've ever heard the records in my life. And I just thought, what if I just stopped? So I went up under the bridge. I call it the Gondor Bridge, or the Gordon Bridge, because I was thinking I would call my first son Gordon, based off of Gondor from the Tolkien experience. But I stopped at the bridge. I looked out. I let my leg calm down, and then I learned to walk slow again. And this has been something that I haven't been comfortable doing for a long time. But I used to be able to walk at any pace I'd like, and it would be no problem. But it seemed like walking as slow as I could helped my leg heal back. And I was able to enjoy the music. I was able to continue the route. And I just slowed down. And I realized that I've been hardwired for walking fast and being athletic and losing weight and building muscle and being impressive. And it all came from when I started jogging again and I started walking, and it was great. Fitness is important. I'm not saying there is a problem in fitness, but at the same time, I should have the ability to slow down, to calm down, and be able to have a meditative walk, as well as be able to pick up the speed when I need to exercise. And it's just the first time I've walked that slow and calm and uninjured in years, must be. So I'm still listening to Tool, and it's still awesome. I had to make a few edits, but that band is just beyond this world. So yeah, that was my music experience of today, of this week. I got my printer is still working, so I printed out all the documents I need for my taxes, which was my major stress this morning. I woke up and I've just been worrying about it. I got to go to Micro Center. I got to go get that extra ink for my printer. And if it doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to go to the library or something. Oh, terror. But Micro Center was awesome. I just bought a computer with them last week, and I come over and they said they had a guy help me look through the ink cartridges to find the correct one. And I crossed my fingers all the way back, and I watched a YouTube video. Okay, put it in this way, and I was putting it in. Oh wait, take off the yellow stripe, and then put it in, and then set it down, and then it starts doing things, but it's not printing. And I look at the writing, and it says will take 4 minutes. So okay, I back off, and then it says it's ready to go, and I was so stressed. I said, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna have a hard next 2 weeks. But I clicked print, and so it did. At the same time, it also got low on the ink of color. So I have new black ink, but I have low colored ink. But thankfully, I got all the documents printed before it was completely out. But I don't know whether that's something to be thankful about or something to be a little bit cross about. Because I did go through all those levels of stress of not hoping the printer worked and hoping it, being stressed if it didn't, and I followed all the guidelines and everything worked, and then all of a sudden I have to go get 3 colors of ink after that. So but I'm doing okay. That's something I've been thinking about a lot, actually, and is the mentality that you set before a day or before an activity. Does that affect the actual what will happen? And I think rationally and logically that will only affect my emotional and mental state going into that event. But at the same time, if I come in with good vibes, other people, I do believe that other people will see that and start feeling those vibes. And if I were an actor to go on a stage and say a monologue at the beginning of the play, and I go on there feeling nervous about it, then I'm creating nervous vibes, even in the audience. So if I go on and maybe I'm not changing reality, so to speak, by constantly thinking good thoughts, if I do go on and myself is all set, and I go up there and I do a great job, then the audience is going to feel good about it too. So there's two ways you can see it, and I'm trying to be, I don't know, more realistic about it, because that makes sense. But at the same time, if you want to try and see if things change by just connecting to good vibrations, go for it and let's see what happens. I'd love to hear somebody talk about their experiences with that. I think it's the difference between manifestation and I don't know, just positive thinking. But yeah, speaking of thinking, I am currently taking a counseling class at Bunker Hill, and I have a book here called Effective Helping, 8th edition, Interviewing and Counseling Techniques by Barbara F. Okun and Ricky E. Kantrowitz. And I just read the chapter on helping theory, and it was talking a lot about different theories of psychology and how humans develop and different ways you can incorporate into your profession if you were a counselor or a therapist that you think would help your client or that you are good at in helping people. And I read through a bit of Freud, and he seems to think that everything starts when you're born and when you're raised to a very young age, and then that's the rest of your life. And I'm not saying that, I'm not really into that. I do agree with the fact that, what you experience as a baby, as a toddler, as a young kid will affect the rest of your life. But at the same time, I do believe that there are ways to evolve from that existence as you grow older. And I'm not saying that you can completely change the effect that something has had on you in at any point in your life. If you have trauma, or if you have great happiness or something that really works, or if you were very much involved in playing soccer and then you stopped playing soccer and you decided to just go to the gym, I'm not saying that those muscles that you learned kicking a ball will go away, but you can retrain to a certain extent. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. And of course, the beginning years are very important, the way you start off. But once you become a more independent adult and you grow up and you get life experience and you learn what you like and what you don't like, and who are your friends, who's your family, you can significantly change things. I'm not saying completely, but you can really make your life good. And I'm just saying this for people who are thinking, oh, that thing happened to me in my past, so I'll never feel good again, And I'm just saying there is a way to change. There is a way to develop out of that trauma. So that's what I wanted to say that. So I'm skipping the Freud bit, and I'm just going to look through this book and go through these different psychologies. So I think the first one I'm going to read is done by Erikson, I believe. There may be a few other names in here. I see Erik Erikson, Anna Freud, Heinz Hartmann. But I remember reading this under a chapter about Erikson in another class. But it says, first, there is trust versus mistrust. Based on parent-infant relationship. So that makes sense. If you have a good parent who takes care of you, you're going to have trust for that parent. And so the emotion of trust is there in your mind. And mistrust would come for if maybe you have a traumatic child experience, or maybe even financially the parent couldn't provide as much as the next kid or something like that. But the first stage, and I'm not saying these stages are unchangeable. That's actually why I'm reading this Erikson bit, as I feel that when I was reading it, I saw bits that I'd kind of skipped, or I'd gone to the negative one, good or bad. This one's sort of a good or bad, you will evolve. Good or bad, good, you evolve. And I saw there were some in the earlier stages that I missed, but some in the later stages that I got, and vice versa. So there is a way. This is why I really like the Erickson theories. There is a way to go back and re-evolve from that trauma in the past, and then set it up to make your present even better. I don't know if I can read through this because it got about a minute and a half. But I really want to emphasize that just because you had something that really happened really bad, that happened in your past, doesn't mean that your future will never be good. You can go back to those moments with yourself and just kind of psychologically go through how that affected you, how you feel about it, and really just kind of change your mindset, set yourself correct on those paths, and then now you will be good. So yeah, I got about 45 seconds, and I just wanted to say I'm glad for people watching my show. Thank you for the people on YouTube who watched my show. I got about 58 listens on the last episode, so I really appreciate that. If you're interested, please check my previous episodes as well. I'll be looking this over and uploading it probably next week. I'll try to get maybe Friday. I could do it Friday. But thank you for watching my show, and I hope you got something from it. I hope it helps you feel better. It gives you an idea of better things you could do in your life. And that would be all from me. So farewell, everybody.